By noon, 12 customers had heard that I had hired a thief. By 12:10, 3 stood in my waiting area, pretending not to stare at her. Hannah Reed sat behind the front desk on her first day at Mercer Auto, entering invoices from a box my father had sealed before he died. A faded blue carbon receipt lay beside her keyboard. She had answered the faded "now hiring" sign the afternoon before. I had met her request for work with a nervous joke about needing a wife more than an employee, then spent the rest of the interview apologizing. Then Cole Maddox walked through the open bay, carrying a white envelope. Cole had managed my father's accounts for 11 years. In this town, that made him more believable than most banks. "I'm not here to cause trouble," he said, "but count the cash before she leaves." He placed the envelope on my counter. Inside was a disciplinary report from Hannah's former employer. Her signature sat beneath an accusation involving $48,000. Cole tapped the date. "Ask her why she changed it." I wanted facts, quiet, and every customer there to keep believing I was reasonable. So I made the worst possible choice. "Hannah, maybe you should wait in the office while we clear this up." The waiting area accepted my sentence as a verdict. She placed the shop key beside the blue receipt. "You didn't ask me for the truth," she said. "You asked me to disappear until his story felt comfortable." She reached for her coat. Wind from the open bay lifted the receipt and flipped it over. On the back was my father's handwriting. "Do not process." Cole reached for it before anyone asked him to. Hannah covered the paper with her hand. "I found this in a file Cole told your father to destroy," she said. Cole turned toward the door. Hannah's voice stayed level. "Tell him why you needed his father's signature after the funeral." If I let her leave, Cole's accusation would become the only version anyone remembered. If I asked her to stay, I might uncover the fraud keeping Mercer Auto alive and lose everything my father had built. I stepped between Cole and the open bay. "Close the door, Ben." My senior mechanic remained beside the alignment rack. Ben Ortiz had worked with my father for 19 years. He knew Cole almost as well as I did. "Luke," he said, "we have customers." "I know." Cole gave a patient smile. "That's why this should wait." That was his gift. He never told a room what to believe. He offered the version that required the least courage. Mrs. Talbot picked up her purse. 2 men near the coffee machine followed her outside. Neither looked at Hannah. Ben lowered the bay door. Cole's smile tightened. I turned to Hannah. "Did you change the date?" "Yes." The answer came without decoration. Ben swore under his breath. Cole opened one hand as if the matter had settled itself. "I changed one date on one claim," Hannah said. "Cole told me a technician would lose his job if I didn't. I believed him. That was my mistake." $48,000 is more than one mistake," Cole said. "It's 23 claims filed after my access was revoked." He looked at me. "She copied confidential records when she left. Now she's using your father's death to build a revenge story." The words found the bruise. After Dad died, Cole had handled the creditors, insurance notices, and tax problems I had not known existed. He helped keep Mercer Auto open through the winter. I had trusted him because my father had. Hannah saw the doubt on my face. "Call the police if you think I stole anything," she said. "But first compare that vehicle number with your old intake books." I picked up the receipt. A 2018 Ford Transit, rear quarter repair, parts, labor, paint materials. Total, $6,740. I remembered the van because we had refused it. The owner wanted structural damage hidden before a fleet inspection. Dad sent him away. Yet the receipt claimed we completed the repair 3 weeks later. His signature sat at the bottom. It looked convincing until I reached the final letter. My father always pressed harder there. This one ended too smoothly, like someone had practiced it. Cole buttoned his coat. "Grief makes people see patterns." Hannah pointed toward the sealed archive box beside her desk. "There are more invoices in there." I had carried the box down that morning because she asked for old vendor records. My father's initials crossed the yellow tape. I had broken the seal myself. "You knew what was inside," I said. I knew what I hoped was inside. Not the same answer. Cole moved toward the side door. Ben stepped into his path. For the first time, Cole looked directly at Hannah. "You should be careful what you mistake for proof." Hannah closed her fingers around the shop key. "That's why I came to the one place your copies couldn't replace the originals." The impact wrench in the rear bay stopped. I looked from the archive box to the forged signature, Then to the woman I had almost removed from the room, because silence would have been easier. "Ben, lock the cash drawer." Hannah's face hardened. I held her gaze. "Not because of you. Because nobody leaves with a document until we know what my father tried to stop." Cole's calm slipped for less than a second, but Hannah saw it. So did I. Cole left through the side door after promising, in a voice meant for witnesses, that his lawyer would contact me. Nobody tried to stop him. Ben unlocked the bay. The customers who had stayed found sudden reasons to study the floor or the weather beyond the glass. Hannah remained behind the counter with the shop key beneath her palm. I placed the blue receipt inside a clear estimate sleeve. "Does he have access to your accounts?" she asked. "Not anymore." That wasn't my question. Cole had helped transfer the shop accounts after Dad died. He knew our lender, our insurance agent, and every vendor who had ever extended credit when the balance came up short. "He knows where they are," I said. "Change every password before lunch. You still work here." Her hand moved away from the key. "That depends on whether you hired me to organize records or stand trial in your waiting area." 30-day trial, I said. "Same pay we discussed. You don't touch the archive box alone, and nothing leaves this building." "Agreed. And if I find out you lied about the money, you call the police." She said it without flinching. I locked the archive box in the cabinet where Dad had kept vehicle titles. Hannah watched me test the handle twice. She noticed things people usually pretended not to notice. That became clear before the end of her first week. Mercer Auto had survived 31 years on good repair work, repeat customers, and paperwork that looked completed during an earthquake. Dad could diagnose frame damage from the way a door closed. I could match paint by eye beneath bad fluorescent lights. Neither of us had built a system that could survive inspection. Hannah did not complain about the mess. She separated it. Unpaid invoices went into a red tray. Vendor credits went into green. Estimates waiting for approval stood upright instead of disappearing beneath coffee cups. By Wednesday, she had recovered $1,700 from duplicate parts charges and found 6 customers I had forgotten to bill. "You repaired a delivery van in August and never sent the final invoice," she said. "The owner's wife was in the hospital. That explains a payment plan. It doesn't explain pretending the repair was free. He paid for parts. You paid Ben for labor." I leaned against the office door. "He was having a difficult month. So were you." I joked that difficulty was part of our service package. Hannah turned the monitor toward me. 3 columns showed what the shop had lost because I reduced invoices after customers became angry, embarrassed, or loud. "You apologize with discounts," she said. "I keep customers. You teach them that pressure changes the price." Her finger rested beside a total larger than our operating balance. Dad had done the same thing. He called it taking care of people. When a customer shouted, he lowered the bill. When a vendor made a mistake, he absorbed it rather than risk the relationship. Then his business partner emptied a restoration account and disappeared. I was 27 when Dad called me from the shop at 2 in the morning. He sat with every cabinet open and a bank letter folded in his shirt pocket. The missing money belonged to 6 customers whose cars were already stripped to bare metal. Dad sold his house to finish the work. He never sued. "Court turns mistakes into entertainment," he told me. What he meant was that he could not bear to describe how completely he had trusted the wrong man. After that, he stopped letting anyone see him uncertain. He joked with creditors, paid customers before himself, and signed whatever Cole placed in front of him because Cole made the numbers quiet. I inherited the same reflex. Make the room comfortable. Pay the difference. Do not ask a question unless I was certain I could survive the answer. On Thursday, Hannah found me reducing an estimate for Curtis Bell. His truck needed a new radiator support after he drove through a closed construction gate. Curtis insisted the damage came from an earlier repair. It had not. He raised his voice until Ben stopped working. I removed 2 labor hours. Hannah set a photograph on the counter. Fresh yellow paint from the gate was embedded in the damaged metal. Curtis glanced at her name tag. "Did I ask the secretary?" "She manages the records," I said. "Then she can record whatever price you and I agree on." He smiled at me, inviting me into the easier version of the moment. I nearly accepted. Hannah returned to her desk and entered the reduced total. Curtis left satisfied. An hour later, I found the photograph clipped to the original estimate. Beneath it, Hannah had written, "Owner override, documented damage discounted after customer dispute." You didn't need to write that. Yes, I did. It makes me look like I don't trust my own assessment. You didn't. The printer released another page between us. What would you have done? Shown him the photograph. And when he kept shouting, let him shout. You think every disagreement needs a winner. No, I think facts need somewhere to stand. At noon, she took a paper bag to the break area beside the parts shelves. Her lunch was crackers, an apple, and cheese cut into exact squares. I sat at the opposite end of the table. Cole said you copied records. I did. Why? Because reports were changing after I approved them. You could have gone to the owner. Cole was the owner's son-in-law. The police? With one altered date under my login? She folded the cracker packet into a narrow strip. I thought I needed enough proof that nobody could explain me away. What did the date change? It moved a repair into the warranty period. Did money get paid? Yes. To Cole? I don't know. That answer sounded true, which was not the same as knowing it was. She pushed back from the table. My mother's house secured a loan for a business Cole and I were supposed to open. He controls the debt now. If I lose the dispute, she loses the house. Before I could respond, the office bell rang. Mrs. Gable entered, carrying an estimate Hannah had prepared. She pointed to the new scheduling board. This is wonderful, Luke. You finally got organized. I felt Hannah stop behind me. The board was hers. So were the intake forms, the parts tracker, and the reminder system that had already cut our missed appointments in half. Mrs. Gable waited. The correct sentence was 6 words long. Hannah built all of this. Instead, I smiled. Had to grow up sometime. Mrs. Gable laughed. Hannah opened the lower filing drawer, removed a marker, and erased the small line in the corner. System designed by Hannah Reed. She capped the marker and returned to work. She did not accuse me. She did not need to. Cole had written her as a thief. I had just discovered a quieter way to make her disappear. The next morning, Hannah arrived 20 minutes early with a scanner, 2 legal pads, and a pair of cotton gloves. Ben watched her set everything beside the locked cabinet. Planning to perform surgery? On your filing system. That patient died years ago. She wrote his name on a legal pad. Hostile witness. Ben carried his coffee into the bay. I unlocked the cabinet and lifted the archive box onto the counter. The yellow tape my father had placed across the lid lay curled beside it. Hannah did not touch the contents until I pulled the first folder free. We start with the transit, she said. You're giving orders again. I'm giving the vehicle number somewhere to stand. I set the blue receipt beneath the scanner. The old intake books were kept in a steel drawer under the parts catalogs. Dad recorded every vehicle by hand, date, owner, mileage, visible damage, estimate number, and whether the customer accepted the work. His handwriting leaned forward as if each word was in a hurry. We found the transit on September 3rd. Declined structural concealment requested. No repair order. No parts authorization. No payment. The blue receipt claimed the job had been completed on September 24th. Hannah placed both pages side by side. That proves your shop didn't perform the repair, she said. It proves Dad wrote that we didn't. Cole used your father's signature to say otherwise. Or Dad changed his mind. She did not argue. She scanned both pages and saved them to a folder on a clean flash drive I had bought that morning. Ben returned with a box of brake pads. You trust that thing more than the cabinet? I trust copies stored in more than one building, Hannah said. His eyes shifted toward me. Nobody said Cole's name. By 10, we had checked 6 blue receipts against the intake books. 4 vehicles had never entered our property. One had come in for an oil leak but was later billed for collision work. The last belonged to a woman named Teresa Vaughn, who had brought her sedan in after striking a deer. Dad's book listed a headlamp, grille, and hood replacement. The receipt in Cole's file added an airbag module and frame repair worth $9,000. I remembered Teresa because she brought Dad cinnamon bread every Christmas. She had driven the car for another 3 years before selling it to her nephew. If the frame had been repaired, we would have photographs, I said. Where did your father keep them? I opened the bottom drawer of the old desk. Envelopes filled it from front to back, each marked with an estimate number. We found Teresa's photographs beneath a receipt for primer. The front of the car was damaged. The frame rails were not. Hannah held one image near the window. A date stamp ran across the bottom. This was taken after the date on the claim, she said. The photograph should have felt like progress. Instead, I saw my father's hand in the corner, holding a measuring gauge beside the undamaged rail. His wedding ring caught the flash. Dad had been alive when someone used our shop to claim work that never happened. He might have known. I sat on the edge of the desk. Hannah lowered the photograph. Luke, keep going. You don't have to do this at the speed I need. We're not doing it at your speed. I picked up the next folder. We're doing it before Cole finds out what survived. At 11:30, Hannah found the first connection to her account. A warranty claim printout had been folded between two supplier statements. The approval line displayed her employee identification number. The timestamp read 8:42 p.m. On October 14th, she pressed one fingertip to the page. I was not at the dealership that night. How do you know? My father had surgery in Green Bay. I stayed at the hospital. Can you prove it? Her mouth tightened. I signed the visitor log. I paid for parking. There may be a photograph. Maybe? My mother took one before they wheeled him in. The way she said it made the picture sound more dangerous than the report. What happened? He died 6 hours later. The shop continued around us. A compressor started. Ben dropped something metal into a tray. The office phone rang twice before the answering machine picked up. Hannah kept her finger on the claim. Cole had used her account while she sat beside her dying father. That was the detail that hurt her, not the amount, not the accusation, the timing. He knew where I was, she said. He drove me to the hospital. I pushed the printout away from her. She pulled it back. No, I need to see it. You've seen it. I need to remember that he chose the hour. Her voice stayed controlled, but the paper shook beneath her hand. I found an evidence sleeve and held it open. Hannah placed the claim inside without bending it. Was Cole still your fiancé? Yes. Did he have your password? He knew the first one. I changed it after I found a report open under my login. Did you tell anyone? Cole said the system had cached my credentials. And you believed him. I wanted to. She sealed the sleeve. That answer carried more shame than the change date ever had. At lunch, we called Teresa Vaughn. She answered on the fourth ring and recognized my name before I finished explaining. Your father saved me from replacing half that car, she said. Told me the dealership estimate was padded. What dealership? Maddox. Hannah began writing. Did you authorize an insurance claim through them? No. Cole said he'd compare prices as a favor. Then your father told me not to sign anything else. Did Dad say why? A cabinet door closed on Teresa's end. He said numbers were moving after he wrote them down. Hannah's pen stopped. Mrs. Vaughn, she said. Do you still have the estimate Cole gave you? There was a pause. Who is this? Hannah Reed. The warmth left Teresa's voice. I've heard about you. Hannah did not defend herself. I understand, she said. If you find the estimate, please give it directly to Luke or his attorney. You don't have to speak with me again. Teresa promised to look, then ended the call. Hannah wrote call attorney across the top of the page. You could have told her Cole was lying, I said. She already decided which version costs her less. That doesn't make it right. No, it makes it familiar. We returned to the archive box. Near the bottom sat the original blue carbon book. Half the pages remained attached to the cardboard spine. The serial numbers matched the loose receipts. Hannah turned each page with the cotton gloves. One receipt showed a legitimate repair. The next had been removed. Then another legitimate repair. Then 3 missing pages in a row. The torn edges were clean, not yellowed like the paper around them. Those were removed recently, she said. Recently could mean years. Not this one. She pointed to a narrow strip, still caught beneath the staple. A partial date appeared along the edge. The month was March. My father had died in February. Somebody had opened his sealed box after the funeral and removed pages from the carbon book. The office printer woke behind us. Ben stood beside it with his phone in one hand. You both need to see this. A single page slid into the tray. It was a screenshot from the town community board. Mercer Auto employs woman under financial investigation. Beneath the headline was a photograph taken through our front window that morning. Hannah and I stood over the open archive box. The caption said we were destroying records. Saturday's winter safety clinic had been Hannah's idea. By 8:30, 12 cars filled the lot. Ben checked tire depth in the first bay, while 2 volunteer firefighters tested batteries beside the second. Hannah had arranged coffee, numbered inspection cards, and a table where customers could schedule repairs without blocking the counter. A representative from Northline Parts stood near the display of wiper blades. Claire Donnelly, from the Chamber of Commerce, had brought a camera for the town newsletter. Mrs. Gable was telling anyone who would listen that Mercer Auto had finally learned how appointments worked. Hannah heard that and kept writing. The community post accusing us of destroying records had been shared 83 times. Our attorney had told us not to respond publicly until she reviewed the archive scans. Hannah obeyed even when customers lowered their voices as she passed. At 9:15, a black SUV stopped beyond the bays. Cole stepped out with a woman carrying a leather document case. Hannah's pen paused. "His attorney?" I asked. "Public relations. She only carries paper when people are watching." Cole waited until Claire's camera turned toward the entrance before walking inside. He greeted Mrs. Gable by name, shook the Northline representative's hand, then approached me with the concern of a man arriving to prevent an accident. "Luke, I hoped we could handle this privately. You posted a photograph through my office window. I did not take that photograph. But you recognized what was in the box." Nearby conversations stopped. Cole's companion removed a notice from her case. "Maddox Automotive has requested preservation of all documents connected to an active financial investigation." Hannah stepped closer. "Your client altered records under my credentials." The woman raised one hand. "Miss Reed, you have been instructed through counsel not to contact Mr. Maddox." "I did not contact him. He came to my workplace." "Former workplace," Cole said softly. Hannah's chin lifted. Cole turned to me. "I am asking you, as someone who cared about your father, to suspend Hannah's access to customer records. She works here, and your customers deserve to know their information is safe." Ben left the bay and stood beside the tire machine. 3 customers had moved close enough to hear. Cole glanced toward Hannah. "She becomes unstable when she feels cornered. Do not mistake that for honesty." The word changed the air. Unstable. Anger would become proof. Silence would become calculation. Leaving would become guilt. Her fingers tightened around the clipboard. "Ask him who approved the claims after my account was disabled," she said. The public relations woman unfolded another page. "Discussing specific records could expose Mercer Auto to claims of coordinated witness interference." Hannah stopped. Cole had brought a trap shaped like professional advice. If she defended herself, he would call it interference. If she obeyed, the crowd would hear only him. The old solution formed before I spoke. Calm everyone down. Call it a misunderstanding. Promise temporary restrictions that could be reversed later. I reached for the notice. "We can pause access for a few days while the lawyers—" Hannah set the clipboard on the counter. The sound cut through my sentence. She did not face me. That made the warning clearer. I read the first paragraph. The notice requested preservation. It did not require suspension, termination, or silence. "This does not say she cannot work," I said. Cole's companion smiled without warmth. "It advises reasonable safeguards." "Then we already have them. Records are copied, logged, and locked. Nobody handles the archive alone." Cole exhaled as if I were disappointing him for my own good. "You are risking your father's name for a woman you met 10 days ago." "No, I am refusing to fire someone because you chose an audience." A few people stepped away from the coffee table. Cole lowered his voice. "You do not know what she did." Hannah admitted what she did. That surprised him. "And you still let her near your accounts?" "She changed one date. The remaining claims were filed after her access was revoked." The public relations woman turned toward Cole. He answered too quickly. "Revoked credentials can remain active in a cached system." Hannah's eyes moved to mine. He had used the same explanation with her years earlier. Claire lifted her camera. Cole noticed and recovered. "This is exactly what I was concerned about. She feeds you fragments, and you build a conspiracy around them." A man near the entrance raised his hand. "My credit card is in your system. Is it safe?" "Yes," Hannah said. The public relations woman spoke over her. "That cannot be guaranteed while disputed personnel retain access." Hannah opened her mouth, then stopped. Her attorney's instruction held her in place more effectively than a locked door. I opened the metal cash box. Every payment sat inside with a numbered receipt. "Ben has the key. I have the card terminal password." Hannah built the tracking system, but she cannot transfer money without one of us approving it. Ben held up the key. Cole's expression hardened. "You arranged that because you do not trust her. We arranged it because no business should depend on one person." "That sounds like something she taught you to say." "It is." Mrs. Gable approached with her inspection card. She had praised Hannah's system 3 days earlier. Now she placed the card in front of me. I would prefer that you handle my payment, Luke. Hannah's hand remained beside the reader. I am sure this will be cleared up, Mrs. Gable added. I just cannot take chances. Hannah withdrew her hand. I processed the payment, aware that every click sounded like agreement. Cole watched me do it. He did not need to win the argument. He only needed people to behave as if his version might be true. The North Line representative received a call and walked outside. 2 minutes later, the delivery truck backed away without unloading our brake parts. I followed him into the cold. Credit office put the account on review, he said. You will need to speak with them Monday. When I returned, Claire was packing her camera. The chamber is postponing the feature until the situation is clearer. Clearer for whom? Her mouth tightened. I am trying not to take sides. I knew that sentence. It had lived in my mouth for years. The event continued. Cars moved through the bays. Coffee ran out. I answered questions no customer would have asked the day before. At noon, Mrs. Gable returned for her keys. Hannah found them on the board and held them out. Mrs. Gable hesitated, then turned to me. Could you give them to me? Hannah's arm stayed extended for 1 second longer. I took the keys. Mrs. Gable thanked me and left. Cole was already gone. He had not raised his voice. He had not called Hannah a thief. He had only given decent people a reason to treat her like one. Hannah removed her name tag and set it beside the empty key hook. You kept me employed, she said. It was not gratitude. Outside, the North Line truck disappeared at the end of the road. Inside, nobody asked Hannah for help. The shop emptied an hour after the clinic ended. Ben left without saying goodnight. He spent the final 30 minutes counting brake pads we had not received and pretending the numbers required all his attention. Hannah remained at the front desk with her name tag beside the keyboard. I carried the empty coffee urn to the sink. You can put that back on, I said. She kept reading the preservation notice. A name tag is useful when people want to know your name. They know it. That is not the same thing. Snow pressed against the windows. The forecast had promised 2 inches. 6 already covered the lot. I set a paper cup of soup beside her hand. Where did that come from? Ben's emergency cabinet. He keeps soup in the break room. He also keeps socks and a birthday card for a woman named Denise. Who is Denise? Nobody knows. She wrapped both hands around the cup, but did not drink. My phone buzzed with an email from Northline. Our account would remain suspended until we proved customer information was secure. I turned the screen face down. Hannah noticed. You should go home, I said. I can drive you. My car is here. Your tires are nearly bald. You inspected them? I own an auto shop. Parking lots cause professional distress. Her mouth moved at one corner. Then she picked up the shop key. I need to show you something first. She led me into the rear storage room. The space was narrow enough that 2 people could not pass without turning sideways. Metal shelves held old estimate folders, discontinued trim clips, and parts my father had saved because throwing away anything useful offended him. Hannah pulled a gray folder from behind a carton of manuals. My initials crossed the tab. How long has that been there? Since Wednesday. You searched this room? Yes. Before I gave you permission? Yes. She set the folder on a shelf between us. I knew Mercer Auto appeared in Cole's claims before I walked through your door. You said you needed a job. I did. That was not the whole reason. No. How much did you know? 3 vehicle numbers. Your shop name. Your father's signature. I thought the originals might still exist. So you chose my business because you needed access. I chose it because the hiring sign was real. I needed income, and this was the only place that might contain records Cole could not edit. You let me think finding the receipt was an accident. I let you think I came without a second reason. That is a careful way to say you lied. It is the accurate way. The folder contained screenshots from the dealership's claim system. Each page showed an approval under Hannah's employee number. Pencil marks connected dates, vehicle numbers, and vendor accounts. At the back sat a photograph of my father shaking Cole's hand at a charity dinner. A red circle surrounded the envelope beneath Cole's arm. What is that? I don't know. The photograph was saved with the claims. You copied Cole's private files. Yes. How? He left his laptop open after a board dinner. I used a drive from the training room. You were still engaged? For another 3 weeks. I closed the folder. You copied confidential information, hid it, and entered my shop under a partial story. Yes. Why not take this to an attorney? The first told me to return the files and hope Cole did not report me. The second asked whether I had altered a record myself. Her hand braced against the shelf. I told him about the date. What exactly did you change? A repair authorization for a technician named Daniel Cho. Cole said Daniel submitted it 1 day late because his daughter was in the emergency room. I moved the date back 48 hours. And the claim paid. $3,200. Did Daniel receive it? No. It went to a vendor account controlled by Cole's cousin. Hannah had not stolen $48,000, but she had opened the door Cole later used. I covered for him once, she said. I told myself I was protecting an employee. The truth is, I wanted Cole to see me as loyal. She pressed her thumb against the folder's torn edge. When I found the first false claim, I asked him privately instead of reporting it. He cried. He said his father had created a temporary transfer to keep the dealership alive. I stayed because admitting the truth meant admitting I had helped him. You were afraid. I was benefiting. Her voice sharpened. I had the title, the salary, and a family that treated me like I belonged. Do not turn that into fear, because fear is easier to forgive. I had waited for her flaw to become visible enough to justify my doubt. Now that she had placed it in front of me, I wanted to make it smaller. That reflex belonged to the same part of me that discounted bills and called it kindness. I left her confession at its actual size. You should have told me before I opened the archive. Yes, you should not have searched this room. No, you may have damaged the legal value of those files. I know. Hannah removed her employee key and placed it on the shelf. I will leave the copied files. Your attorney can decide what to do with them. I will list everything I touched. You think that fixes it? No, it keeps the next decision from being mine. Wind pushed snow against the metal door. Hannah rubbed her bare hands together. I took my work jacket from a hook and held it out. She studied me before accepting it. This is not forgiveness, I said. I did not ask for that. It is cold. That part I believe. She put on the jacket. The sleeves covered her knuckles. I opened the folder again. One screenshot showed 3 claims approved after her access had supposedly been disabled. A note beside them read, Mirror Login? You knew someone was copying your credentials. I suspected. And you still came here alone. I did not know who else was involved. You could have told me at the interview. You made a joke about wanting a wife instead of an employee. That was a bad joke. It also told me you were careless with boundaries when nervous. There was no cruelty in the sentence. I am trying to be less careless. I noticed. The narrow space changed around us. Hannah's hair had loosened near one cheek. My jacket hung from her shoulders. My hand lifted before I decided what it wanted. I stopped it against the shelf. She saw. Neither of us moved. This cannot be the part where gratitude becomes something else, she said. It is not gratitude. You do not know what it is. I know enough. No. You know I was humiliated in your shop. You know I may lose my mother's house. You know you want to prove you are not the man who asked me to disappear. Each sentence removed a place to hide. I lowered my hand. Not tonight. Not while the truth between us still has missing pages. Her eyes stayed on mine. Then do not fill them in for me. I won't. And do not protect me from the consequences of what I did. I won't do that either. She started to return the jacket. I pushed it back toward her. That one is still about the cold. This time she kept it. We carried the folder to the office and sealed it in a separate evidence bag. Hannah listed every drawer, box, and shelf she had searched. At the bottom, she signed her full name. Before leaving, she put the name tag back on. Not because the customers had cleared her. Because the next truth would have to include the part she had done wrong. Elena Park arrived Monday morning, carrying 2 legal pads and no patience for either of us. She was the third attorney Hannah had contacted, and the first one who agreed to meet inside the shop. She placed her coat over the back of a chair, photographed every evidence seal, then asked Ben to sign a statement confirming when the archive box had been opened. When he finished, she pointed toward the bay. I need the office. Ben took his coffee and left. Elena sat across from Hannah. You copied files without authorization. Yes. You altered one claim. Yes. You searched this business before disclosing why you came. Yes. Elena turned to me. And you allowed her to continue working with financial records after learning she was under investigation. I restricted access. After the public confrontation, the distinction landed where it was supposed to. She drew a line down the center of a page. On one side, we have evidence that Miss Reed may have been framed. On the other, we have conduct that Cole's attorneys will use to make every useful fact look contaminated. Hannah kept both hands flat on her knees. "What do I do?" she asked. "Tell the truth before they force it out of you." Elena slid a whistleblower affidavit across the desk. It listed the changed date, the copied files, the hidden search, and the claims filed after Hannah's credentials were revoked. "If you sign this, you lose control over which part becomes public." "I never had control." "You still have a choice about whether your first complete account comes from you." Hannah read every page. I reached for the coffee pot and found it empty. The ordinary failure helped. It gave my hands something to do besides interfere. "What happens to the shop?" I asked. Elena opened a second folder. "Northline has frozen your trade account. Your insurer wants an independent review. The bank can suspend your credit line if it believes fraudulent claims passed through Mercer Auto. We did not receive the warranty money. You may still have supplied the documents that released it. My father may have. Then your father's conduct will be examined." The sentence stayed between us. Dad had been gone 4 years. He could not explain why his signature appeared beneath repairs we had never completed. He could not tell an investigator whether he had been careless, deceived, or desperate. Protecting his reputation would be easy. We only had to leave the box closed. Elena placed a temporary employment agreement in front of Hannah. "Until this is resolved, she cannot supervise evidence, authorize payments, or report only to you. Mr. Ortiz must approve every transaction. I also recommend paid administrative leave." Hannah straightened. "No. It protects both of you. It removes me from the only job I have. It reduces the argument that you are altering records. Then give me work that does not touch the disputed files." Elena glanced at me. The decision was mine, which was part of the problem. "You can rebuild the customer schedule and vendor system," I said. "Ben signs every payment. I sign every estimate. The archive stays with Elena." Hannah studied the agreement. "And my pay?" "Unchanged. I will not accept money for work I am not doing." "Then do the work listed." "That is not what I mean." "I know." Her mother's house sat behind every sentence. If Hannah lost her income, Cole's loan moved one step closer to foreclosure. If I protected her too visibly, his attorneys would call the job payment for cooperation. Elena tapped the agreement. "Add a fixed 30-day term, a written role, and severance not tied to testimony. That makes it employment, not rescue." I wrote the terms by hand. Hannah read them twice before signing. Then she signed the affidavit. Her pen stopped above the final line. "This may cost my mother her house." Elena did not soften her voice. "It may. Lying will not save it." Hannah finished her name. At 10:30, the bank called. Our credit line had been reduced to the amount already drawn. No new parts purchases. No payroll advance. No winter equipment loan. The balance in our operating account would cover 12 working days. Ben listened from the office doorway. "My insurance comes out Friday," he said. "It will be paid." "With what?" "I have a restored Mustang in storage." His face changed. Dad and I had rebuilt that car over 7 years. The title still carried both our names. "No," Ben said. "It is metal. It is your father's car. My father built a shop before he built that car." Ben folded his arms. "And if selling it does not fix this, then I work out what comes next." He glanced at Hannah, then away. The blame had entered the building without Cole needing to walk through the door. By lunch, 2 fleet customers had postponed repairs. One said his insurer advised him not to leave company records with us. The other apologized 3 times before canceling. Hannah removed both vehicles from the schedule. Each empty line widened the space beneath payroll. At one, she brought me the new vendor procedure. Every order required 2 initials, a purchase number, and a photograph of the delivered part. "This is good," I said. "It is obvious." It was not obvious here. She placed the clipboard down. "Do not praise me because you feel guilty. I am praising the procedure." "Then use it." I signed the first line. Her sleeve brushed my wrist as she reached for the clipboard. Both of us stopped before the contact became something we could pretend had happened accidentally. "We need another boundary," she said. "We already have one. We need a clearer one." She drew the clipboard against her chest. "I work for you. My mother's house may depend on the paycheck you sign. Nothing happens between us while that is true." The answer hurt because it was correct. Agreed. And you do not change my pay, sell something, or refuse a contract to prove you believe me. I cannot promise not to sell the car. Then do not make the sale about me. It is about the shop. Keep it that way. I nodded. She returned to the front desk. At 3, Elena called from her office. She had traced the vendor account, connected to the first altered claim. Payments moved through a company called Lakeview Administrative Services before reaching Maddox Automotive. One transfer had been routed through an older Mercer Auto clearing account. The account had been closed after Dad died. I pulled the bank statements from the fireproof drawer. 3 deposits entered that account during his final winter. Each was followed within 24 hours by a payment to one of our struggling suppliers. The amounts matched claims in Hannah's copied files. Dad had not kept the money. He had used it to keep the shop alive. Hannah stood on the other side of the desk, but she did not reach for the statements. Did he know where it came from? She asked. I found the final deposit. A handwritten note appeared beside it in Dad's ledger. Temporary advance. CM will correct after audit. CM Cole Maddox. My father had not invented the fraud. But he had accepted the money, used it, and trusted Cole to make the numbers honest later. The shop had survived that winter because of funds attached to claims that never should have existed. Selling the Mustang would not repay what Dad had taken. It would only be the first honest dollar. Ben waited until Elena left before closing the office door. He did not sit. My wife called, he said. The insurer mailed a notice to our house. I set Dad's ledger face down. Your coverage is still active. For now. Hannah stood beside the scheduling board, entering the fleet cancellations. Ben kept his eyes on me. I have 2 kids, Luke. One sees a specialist every 6 weeks. I cannot gamble their insurance on whether Cole forged a signature. Nobody is asking you to gamble. The bank froze credit. Northline stopped deliveries. Customers think we destroy records. That is already a gamble. Hannah capped the marker. Say what you came in to say, Ben. He faced her. I think you should leave until this is settled. The sentence did not sound cruel. That made it heavier. You signed the new access procedure, I said. This is not about whether she can steal from us. It is about what follows her through the door. That is Cole's work. Maybe, but Cole is not on our payroll. Hannah placed the marker in its tray. I understand. No, I said. You do not answer for me. Ben's mouth tightened. Every time anyone questions her, you make it personal. I am making it accurate. You sold the Mustang. The transport company had collected it that morning. 4 clean tire marks remained where Dad's car had rested. I sold an asset to fund payroll. You sold the last thing you built with your father 3 days after she signed an affidavit. Hannah flinched. I opened the office door. Go back to work. Luke, your insurance and wages will be paid Friday. Ben left without touching his coffee. He is afraid, Hannah said. So are you. He has more to lose. That does not make his version true. It makes it expensive to disagree with. At 11, Elena called. A former Maddox employee named Natalie Price had submitted a sworn statement. She claimed Hannah asked her to delete 2 audit notices and threatened to blame Cole if the missing money was discovered. Hannah sat down. Did you ask her to delete anything? I asked. No. I asked her to move 2 notices out of Cole's inbox so I could compare them before he answered. That is not much better. I know. Did you threaten him? I told Natalie that if Cole kept changing reports, I would go to the board. Elena's voice came through the speaker. Natalie says you used the word destroy. I said the changes could destroy the dealership. Can anyone confirm that? No. Natalie appears independent. Do not accuse her publicly without proof. The call ended with instructions to preserve every message between them. Hannah opened her email archive. The oldest messages were gone under a 3-year retention policy. By noon, nobody had accused her inside the building. Nobody needed to. Ben checked every form after she touched it. A customer waited for me rather than let her schedule an appointment. Even the delivery driver placed a box at Ben's feet instead of her desk. The environment had learned Cole's story. At 1:30, my Aunt Ruth arrived, carrying a metal recipe tin. She had kept Dad's personal papers after the funeral. Inside were canceled checks, tax notices, and blank vendor certification forms bearing Dad's signature. My hand stopped over the first page. He signed these empty? Cole said suppliers needed originals before your father went into the hospital. How many? I do not know. You watched him? I brought the papers. Hannah moved away from the desk. Ruth noticed her. You must be the woman from the paper. Hannah, read. Cole said you were confused. Aunt Ruth. I am telling you what he said. Hannah nodded. People usually do. Why did you keep these? I asked. Your father signed too many. I took the extras after he fell asleep. And said nothing. He was dying. Cole was helping. You were angry at everyone. Ruth closed the tin. I told myself unfinished paper could not hurt anyone. The blank signatures gave Cole what he needed to manufacture invoices. They also made it harder to prove which documents Dad had knowingly approved. Ruth had saved evidence and protected the lie at the same time. After she left, Hannah began clearing her desk. Not organizing. Removing. She folded the temporary agreement, placed her name tag on top, and packed her legal pads into the canvas bag from her first day. What are you doing? Reducing the damage. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a signed statement accepting responsibility for entering the shop under false pretenses, mishandling confidential records, and creating the appearance that Mercer Auto joined her dispute. The final paragraph asked investigators to treat the shop as an uninformed third party. You wrote yourself into Cole's story. I wrote the part that keeps Ben employed. You cannot guarantee that. I can give the bank a reason to separate me from the business and confirm every accusation people already believe. I altered a record. I copied files. I came here looking for evidence. You did not create the claims. That distinction may not save this place. She reached for the shop key. I covered it with my hand. Last week you told me not to fill in the missing pages for you. I remember. You do not get to fill them with a confession that is not true. It is true enough to protect you. True enough is how Cole built the fraud. Her hand remained beneath mine, warm against the metal key. I moved back first. Leave if you choose, I said. But do not call another lie a sacrifice. Her eyes filled without spilling. You sold your father's car. For payroll. You may lose his shop. Because he accepted money he should have questioned. And because I brought the investigation here. You brought the question. Cole brought the fraud. Her phone vibrated inside the canvas bag. A message appeared from an unknown number. Leave Mercer Auto. Once the original mirror drive is gone, nobody can help you. Hannah read it twice. I never told anyone about a mirror drive. What is it? The dealership server made an automatic duplicate every night. Cole said it was replaced before I left. Who knew you were looking for it? Cole, Natalie, me. A second message arrived. You should have left Mercer's box sealed. Dad had used the phrase mirror drive once. During the winter, Cole began moving the accounts. He said Cole kept a duplicate off-site so no fire could erase the books. I opened Ruth's recipe tin. Beneath the blank forms lay a storage receipt and a small brass key from a bank across town. The renter's name was my father's. The access contact was C. Maddox. Cole had not threatened Hannah because she was close to proving the fraud. He had threatened her because he did not know whether my father had already saved it. 48 hours later, the bank moved my father's safe deposit box into a windowless conference room. Elena sat beside Hannah. Across the table were an insurance investigator, a bank compliance officer, and a state fraud examiner named Marcus Bell. Ben had signed a statement but stayed at the shop. Ruth waited near the door with the recipe tin in her lap. Cole arrived last. He brought 2 attorneys and the same calm expression he had worn in my waiting area. This meeting concerns unauthorized access to private business records, one attorney began. Marcus Bell closed his notebook. It concerns several things. Mr. Mercer has agreed to open a box rented by his father. We will document the contents before anyone touches them. A bank officer set the metal box on the table. The brass key from Ruth's tin fit. Inside lay 3 tax folders, a roll of cash bands, and a black external drive wrapped in a shop towel. Dad's handwriting covered a white label. Backup, do not give to Cole. Cole leaned back. My name does not prove ownership. No, I said. But my father's note explains why he hid it. His attorney turned toward me. Your father accepted funds connected to the disputed claims. You may want to consider your own exposure before making accusations. That was the final shelter Cole expected me to use. Protect Dad, protect the shop. Let Hannah carry the uglier version because she was already standing beneath it. I pushed Dad's ledger toward Marcus. My father accepted 3 transfers he should have questioned. He used the money to pay suppliers. He signed blank forms. He trusted Cole after he had reasons not to. Ruth lowered her head. I kept defending him because he died before I learned the whole truth, I continued. Death does not make his choices honest. Cole's attention shifted to the ledger, Elena noticed. The fraud examiner connected the drive to an isolated laptop. Dated server copies filled the screen. Most required dealership software, but one folder contained exported audit logs. Cole's attorney raised an objection. Marcus did not glance up. This is not a courtroom. It is stolen proprietary data. It was stored in a box rented by Mr. Mercer's father, likely copied without authorization. Cole folded his hands. Hannah taught Luke what to search for. She has spent months building a retaliation campaign after I ended our engagement. Hannah's chair moved back half an inch. Elena touched neither her arm nor the microphone. She only placed the signed affidavit in front of her. Cole continued. She changed records. She stole files. She entered this man's business under false pretenses and manipulated his grief until he sold a family asset to support her. Every sentence contained a piece of truth arranged to carry a lie. He turned toward me. You barely knew her. She gave you a villain, and you were eager to become useful. The accusation landed because it was not entirely wrong. I had wanted to repair what I did in the waiting area. I had wanted my later choices to prove I was better than my first one. But wanting redemption did not make the records false. I did try to make myself useful, I said. Sometimes I spoke when Hannah should have spoken. Sometimes I spent money because action felt cleaner than doubt. Those were my choices. She does not owe me for them. Hannah's shoulders lowered. Cole smiled toward the investigators. You see, emotional entanglement. No, I said. You see a man admitting where his judgment can be questioned. You should try it. Marcus opened the first audit log. Hannah's employee number appeared beside 6 approvals. 2 had been entered from a dealership terminal while she was registered at the hospital in Green Bay. A third used her credentials after the system recorded her access as revoked. Cole's attorney said cached credentials could explain the entries. Marcus selected the device column. The approvals came from an administrator terminal assigned to Cole. Cole answered before anyone asked him. That terminal was shared. 1. Marcus stopped scrolling. You recognize the device code? A pause. All executive terminals use the same prefix. The full code is 12 characters. Cole's smile arrived late. Natalie Price entered with another investigator. Hannah's fingers closed around the edge of her affidavit. Natalie did not look at her. Marcus asked whether she had submitted the earlier statement voluntarily. Yes. Was it complete? No. Cole's chair scraped the floor. His attorney put a hand on his sleeve. Natalie placed a small notebook on the table. Cole told me Hannah was collecting material to blackmail the dealership. He said, if I supported her, the missing claims would be assigned to both of us. Did Hannah ask you to destroy audit notices? Marcus asked. She asked me to move them out of Cole's inbox so he could not answer before she copied the claim numbers. She used the word destroy about what the changes would do to the dealership. I changed that in my statement. Why? Natalie finally faced Hannah. Because Cole promised to remove my name from 2 approvals. Hannah absorbed the apology without rescuing her from it. You let me walk into the board meeting knowing what he planned to say, she said. Yes. You watched them take my badge. Yes. I am not ready to forgive that. Natalie nodded. I know. Marcus returned to the drive. One folder was encrypted. The label read, Mirror. Cole stood. This is over. You cannot open proprietary backups without a warrant. Marcus closed the laptop. We already obtained one. For the first time that day, Cole lost the shape of a reasonable man. Who gave you the mirror drive? His attorney went still. Marcus had not called the black device a mirror drive. Nobody had. Cole heard his own mistake. He reached for the notebook in front of Natalie. She pulled it back. You said that copy was destroyed, she said. Cole pointed at Hannah. She stole it. She has been planning this since before her father died. Hannah rose. I changed one date, she said. I copied files I had no right to copy. I stayed after I knew you were changing reports because the title, the salary, and your family made me feel safe. Cole opened his mouth. She did not let him take the sentence. Those are my choices. I signed them before anyone forced me to. She placed her affidavit beside the drive. But you used my name while I sat beside my dying father. You used Luke's father after he became too sick to check you. You used Natalie's fear, Ruth's silence, and a shop that needed money. Her voice did not rise. I gave you one altered date. You built an entire business out of making my name carry yours. Cole's face reddened above his collar. You would have nothing without what I gave you. Hannah held his gaze. That is what you tell people before you send them the bill. Marcus asked Cole to sit down. Instead, Cole turned on Natalie. You think they will protect you? You signed the approvals. The threat came fast and unpolished. Marcus's recorder captured every word. 2 investigators escorted Cole into the hallway to speak with his attorneys. No one celebrated. The drive still needed authentication. The bank still had to decide whether Mercer Auto had benefited from fraud. Hannah could still face consequences for the altered date and copied files. Marcus gathered the ledger and evidence bags. Mr. Mercer, are you prepared for your father's role to become public? The question hurt more without Cole in the room. Yes. Hannah? Elena asked. She studied the affidavit. I want the house lien reviewed. I want every vehicle owner notified, and I want the record to say exactly what I did not, what he needed me to be. My old instinct was to add something stronger. I stayed quiet. She had the floor. This time, I did not take it. 8 months later, the blue carbon book sat inside a locked cabinet behind Hannah's desk. Not framed. Not displayed. Evidence did not become decoration just because it had saved us. The state had authenticated the mirror drive. Cole was charged with fraud, witness intimidation, and falsifying business records. His attorneys still used words like misunderstanding and administrative error. The trial had not begun. Hannah accepted responsibility for altering the warranty date. Her warranty administration certification was suspended for 6 months, and she completed an ethics course with people who kept trying to explain why their cases were different. She never did. The lien against her mother's house was released after investigators proved Cole had attached the property to a different business account using a forged guarantee. The release arrived in a plain envelope. Hannah read it at the desk, folded it once, and called Elena before she allowed herself to believe it. Mercer Auto survived, though survival looked less heroic from inside it. We paid a civil penalty for incomplete controls under my father's management. The Mustang covered payroll, attorney fees, and part of the repayment fund. I still watched for its red hood whenever a classic car turned into the lot. Some customers returned. Some never did. Mrs. Gable apologized to Hannah with a pie and a speech about being frightened. Hannah accepted the pie. Ben stayed, but the easy trust between him and Hannah did not come back all at once. He checked her payment logs for months after the investigation cleared her. She let him because the new policy required it. He apologized without asking her to pretend it had not hurt. Accepted, she said. Not erased. By spring, Hannah no longer worked under the temporary agreement. Elena wrote a permanent operations contract that gave her authority over scheduling, vendors, and compliance. Her pay did not depend on me personally. A separate attorney reviewed the terms for her, and the agreement included a path to buy 20% of the shop. She negotiated every paragraph. When she signed, she used her own pen. I waited until the contract had been active for 30 days before asking her to dinner. It was 6:15 on a Thursday. Ben had gone home. Hannah was locking the evidence cabinet when I placed 2 coffees on the counter. One is not a raise, I said. Good. It is poorly documented. I have a receipt. You are growing. She turned the key, then checked the handle twice. The first time I noticed that habit, I wanted to tell her the cabinet was secure. By then, I understood that certainty was not something I could hand her. I would like to take you to dinner, I said. Not as your employer. Not because of what happened, and not tonight if you need time. She kept one hand on the cabinet key. Ask me tomorrow. I nodded. The next morning, 2 coffees waited beside the scheduling board when I arrived. Hannah pushed one toward me. You asked me yesterday. I remember. The answer is yes. Our first date was at a diner 40 minutes away, where nobody knew Cole, my father, or the photograph from the community board. Hannah ordered pancakes for dinner. I learned that she hated live music in small restaurants and loved terrible roadside attractions. Nothing dramatic happened. That was part of why it mattered. We did not kiss until the 4th date. She asked me to stop outside her apartment because her mother was asleep. I did. Hannah stood beneath the porch light with her hands in her coat pockets. This is clean, she said. It is. Then she stepped forward. Dating did not remove the investigation from our lives. A court notice could still ruin breakfast. Hannah still went quiet when someone used the word unstable as a joke. I still had to fight the impulse to solve discomfort before she decided what she wanted. Sometimes I failed. Once, when a supplier questioned her authority, I interrupted before she finished answering. Hannah waited until he left. You took the floor. I thought he was ignoring you. He was. I was handling it. I apologized without explaining my intention. The next time, I asked, do you want me beside you or behind you? Beside, she said. So I stood there and said nothing. The blue carbon book remained in the cabinet because the criminal case was still open. Hannah kept the key on a plain steel ring, separate from the shop keys. Some mornings she checked the lock once, on harder days, twice. One Friday, a new customer came in for an estimate. He watched Hannah explain the deposit procedure, then nodded toward me. You let her handle the money? The old joke was visible before he said it. Count the cash before she leaves. Ben stopped beneath the lift. My hand tightened around the estimate clipboard. 8 months earlier, I would have laughed to keep the customer comfortable. Later, I might have answered for Hannah to prove I had changed. Instead, I asked her, do you want the first word? Her shoulders had gone rigid. She breathed once, placed the receipt book on the counter, and faced him. I already have it. The customer's smile faded. Hannah explained the payment controls, the dual approval system, and the audit trail attached to every transaction. She did not mention Cole. She did not defend her character. She described the work. When she finished, the man apologized. It was not a beautiful apology. He called the joke stupid and studied his boots. Hannah accepted the estimate deposit and handed him a receipt. After he left, she unlocked the cabinet to file the carbon copy. Her fingers paused on the blue book inside. I did not tell her the past was over. It was not. I placed her coffee beside the cabinet and returned to the bay. A minute later, she joined me with 2 inspection forms and grease on one cuff. The wound had not disappeared. It had simply stopped being the only proof she trusted. Some people do not destroy you by shouting. They do it by writing a version of you that other people find easier to believe. And sometimes, the person who stands beside you cannot repair what happened. They can only refuse to laugh, refuse to speak over you, and leave enough space for your own voice to return. If this story stayed with you, tell me in the comments whether you have ever had to fight for the truth of your own life. And if you want more stories about people who find love without surrendering their dignity, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.